Welcome to our open book. Um, we have a great author, and I really enjoyed the novel. If I can say I enjoyed a novel that begins with the Civil War, but in any event, I really did, and it's Kurt Andersen's The Breakup. Let me say hello to some of you folks coming in. Tell us the audio video is good. Joan Denny, Carla Atkinson, um, John Mahoney, S.R. O'Brien. Good to be with you all. Diana Lynch. Thank you, and Ralph Rush. Good to be with you. Uh, I want to begin just by saying a few words about Dolly Parton. I think I'm going to say more in our show on Saturday, obviously, but it's safe to say Carolina is sitting in the corner. Nobody I enjoyed interviewing more over the years, with all exception to you, Kurt. All right, and
I'm with you. I interviewed her once as well.
it's quite an experience, isn't it? She was wonderful.
It is indeed just absolutely wonderful.
Well, I want to, and look, you always have to be careful about reading song lyrics as poetry because, with all due regard to Bob Dylan and his Nobel Prize, they don't always translate well from song lyrics into poetry. But I loved her 1972 song, "My Tennessee Home." Let me just read from that. Dolly Parton sang, but she also wrote this song, sitting on the front porch on a summer afternoon in a straight back chair on two legs, leaned against the wall. Watch the kids playing with June bugs on a string and chasing the glowing fireflies when evening shadows fall. In my Tennessee mountain home, life is as peaceful as a baby's sigh. Oh, that's just beautiful. She was terrific, and God bless her. We will miss her. Now let's welcome our guest, Kurt Andersen. I often begin on Open Book by asking authors what led them to write about this. But what doesn't lead you to write about this? This is all around us, isn't it? I mean,
Well,
you seem to suggest in ways we might begin to recognize this separation has already begun.
that's the thing. I do think that I wrote a piece about it in the New York Times a few weeks ago. That, and I hadn't realized that really until that particular thing, the way what some of the scholars of this call the soft secession had begun a dozen years ago, and these in these various ways, these legal ways, these interstate alliances and
Yes.
sanctuary cities and sanctuary states for guns and all this stuff that I'd never sort of aggregated and connected those dots to say, oh yeah, that's what this is. As I was researching this, my trying to be plausible story set in the future, set 19 years in the future, where it really happens, and so yeah, it is around us in the last 10 years. And I haven't thought, because have been working on this book for 5, 6 years. I thought about it, but when I started certainly when I started thinking about it, even when I started writing in 2022, it seemed more far-fetched to me than it does now. It was an odd experience to be writing this fiction that the horizon was sort of approaching me faster than the speed of calendar years as I was writing.
Yeah. We should explain, all due regard to Dolly, Tennessee is one of the important settings of the book.
And in
We
fact,
also
I just wanted to mention that
yeah.
that different lyrics from that song are quoted in the book
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
So, we have the United States of America down to 39 states and, the Free American Republic. But it's not a neat distinction, isn't it? It's almost zip code by zip code.
Well, that's the thing. And when I began thinking about how this would happen, and spent, a year or two like thinking about it and figuring it out and researching it, how it happened. No, there is not the convenience of a Mason-Dixon line. Because of course, so much of the conflict, the different cultures, the mutual contempt and incomprehension is between cities everywhere and rural areas almost everywhere. So to do so, you would have to, I believe, create something like I've imagined, which is these what one of the characters calls a blue archipelago, these blue islands across the red America to make it happen. So not quite down to zip codes, but I also have dozens and dozens, hundreds and thousands actually of referenda that have taken place
Yeah.
locally just for counties around metropolitan areas, for instance, to decide, am I going to be part of Metro Nashville or am I going to be part of the state of Tennessee? And so, yeah, it's a very complicated thing, which is in my story, in the breakup, there's an uprising and a war that finally says, okay, enough. We got to figure out how to do this national divorce. It takes 7 years after that, after there's a peace treaty, to figure this out because it's just it's incredibly complex.
And tell us how this affects the Zimbalist family personally. You've got Asher
Yeah,
working in high tech, former professor, Natalie, a poet, Cuban American family.
and
Oh,
and
and Logan.
and Logan, their 17-year-old daughter, and then their 22-year-old son, Andy, who lives not with his mother, but in West Tennessee. So, yeah, you've got this family, and, they have lived there. I mean, they are she is native to East Tennessee. The rest of them, well, Asher was born in Los Angeles to a showbiz family, and, the 2 children grew up in, New Haven and New York, and then in Tennessee because their father came to run the business school at Vanderbilt in Nashville. So that's the deal. And so, they moved to the exurbs, the beautiful rural exurbs of Nashville, what one of Natalie's friend calls yonder Nashville, in 2035, which is a year before this uprising and civil war that Natalie is reluctant to call a civil war began.
There are, and I hate to use this word, I enjoyed your depictions of a future not that far away. Is it wrong to say you seem to have some fun with imagining what that would be?
Yes, I did have something.
Aries and,
Well, I what a
and
book that
the language I was
well, sure, the language, the pervasiveness to a way that is revealed slowly over the course of the book of AI, the robots,
yeah,
proliferating around. Yeah, no, that was definitely fun. I didn't I my intention was to not make it a science fiction book and focusing on the technology and, "Oh, what all has AI done?" But to make it about to nevertheless make it a not insignificantly about AI and that future, but about people, uh, and the society and the culture and where we might be as a result of of the tumult, the kind of revolutionary moment that I believe we're in now, actually, through the various forces that has gotten us here. And it's all seen not from Washington, not from this nonfiction 30,000-foot perspective, but through the eyes of this family who've lived it, who were there and mostly did stay in Tennessee for the entire war, and until recently, they were all still there, and now the couple are separated because they moved to San Francisco, the couple and their daughter, and Natalie has, for a variety of reasons, freaked out and come back to Tennessee.
yeah. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about NPR anchor syndrome.
Um, yes, on Asher and Natalie's first date, um, uh, in Providence, when they were both at Brown University, um, they go to a Mexican restaurant, and Asher, who prides himself on trying to pronounce foreign words correctly, um, and and in a way that, Natalie finds amusing. So,
Not just foreign words, indigenous words. That's
well, that too. Every kind of non-English word he tries hard to pronounce them correctly, um, and so he doesn't know at that point that she's a native Cuban who speaks perfect Spanish, and so he orders their complicated his complicated Mexican dishes, and she goes, "Wow, you really have a real case of um, NPR anchor syndrome," meaning the overcorrect pronunciation of these in this Spanish word. And I'm so pleased that you caught and had mentioned that. But and it's funny. I mean, and it's not just. I mean, again, I had a public radio show for 20 years, so I'm enough part of the family that I'm free to make fun of that. But it's really it's true. It's the blah 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 Nicaragua in the middle of an otherwise. I just find it again sweet as so many liberal-hearted things are, but also funny.
Yeah, no, I can't tell you the conversations we've had about that sort of thing, and,
I'm sure.
yeah, and I won't tell you, but in any or anyone else, everyone acts from, a good place, as we say nowadays. They're,
Yes.
just trying to trying to treat everybody with respect, and how can we not respect that? There is, as much as I enjoyed it, an enormous sadness in the book. Um, that somehow algorithms are working on us now to divide us, almost house by house. And the differences are becoming not only so deep, but so inflamed that we can't continue on together as a country. Now, let's try and be clear eyed. Countries begin and they often end. They can unravel in a way like the Czech Republic and Slovakia, right? Or
If only, which happened so peacefully and quickly.
Yeah, exactly. But as someone who covered the war in Bosnia, which was obviously not peaceful, um, I don't know. It's hard pressed for me to think of any separation that's been happy. I think if I wasn't around for this India, I but all the millions of lives that were lost there,
No, yes.
and
No, no, exactly. Well, or from that matter, the Soviet Union. I mean, no, I mean, Czechoslovakia is the great modern example of, wow, that was easy. But yeah, it is sad and it is tragic. And of my two characters, Natalie finds it deeply sad and tragic. And the fact that her husband doesn't, he's like, good riddance, get
yeah.
rid of him. Makes her sadder and is actually part of their conflict and part of one of the symptoms of the reasons she has left him for the moment.
What was it like for you to spend time in this world writing the book?
Well, uh, it was I it was, it's always or in this case, actually, I kind of knew who Asher was, and he's like a lot of people I know, and, so that he was not hard to write. Writing Natalie, I mean, um, sh well, as with many characters, most of my characters, are sort of Frankenstein creations of bits and pieces of people I've known or seen or met or whatever. And one is not always conscious of where they come from. And then afterwards you say, oh, yeah, I see that from her. I see, oh, that from her, or that from him. So I learned a lot about her, is I guess my answer to that question. And I learned a lot about how well, I thought I knew about, and then I learned more about as I explored it, how what I consider and they consider the kind of manic over politicization of everything in life. That what kind of beer you drink or what band you listen to, anything is seen
Yeah.
as some kind of political signifier. And the oh my God, can't we just live life and can't we just talk to the neighbor who may have voted for Trump or may have voted for somebody else I don't like, and like just not think, well, he's okay for a Trumper, or oh, she's okay for somebody who voted for Kamala Harris. I mean, enough already. And so that and how that unabated and, as you say, encouraged by the algorithms, which, if you had to put, in my view, uh, you know, attribute blame to how we got to this place and how we could get to this fictional place, they're high up there in their share of blame.
Mm. You put me in the mind too, and forgive me, I couldn't recover that. I remember reading the University of Florida historian years ago on the Civil War, And it was one of these alternative history books about what if.
Yeah.
And one of the things he suggested was that the United States would not have become involved in World War I or World War II because it would have been a much lesser country. There,
If what?
if in fact the South had prevailed and the
Uh-huh.
United States had split apart in
Yeah, yeah,
1860,
yeah,
the West wouldn't have been opened, or it would have been opened in a different way,
yep,
not as
yep,
ambitious, and you wouldn't have this large country on the other side of the ocean
yeah.
that could rally to save the world from a force like Adolf Hitler.
That's interesting. It reminds me, interestingly, of a close friend of mine who's a well-known media person and an historian, who said to me that he thinks he's thought for many years, maybe always, that at the end of the Civil War, as it happened, uh, the for all of the beauty of Lincoln's second inaugural, we should have been much tougher and taken the fruits, the United States and Washington, the fruits of victory, and basically, and had something more approach to defeating Nazis in Germany than we had. Where oh no, all come back together. That indeed, if there is an alternative history that he was suggesting, I find fascinating, where in fact that they separate. The slaves are emancipated, but those states and those citizens become their own country. He said the remaining United States would have been not only as economically prosperous as it has become, but also the most progressive country on earth. Which is an interesting alternate history.
Yeah, and I guess you can finish that paragraph any way you want.
Yes, yes,
Part of
yes,
what makes, I think, Lincoln's second inaugural so majestic is that it's not tub thumping. Is that and he talks about the sacrifice of
yes,
365,000. So that every every death that was drawn with the lash was replaced by one drawn with the sword in the Civil War, and well, that I mean that's what makes it majestic.
yes.
It's magnanimity.
And
Uh,
as you know, it figures significantly in a scene in this book, which I was happy to do.
yeah. Um,
There
oh,
is a question
we have a question coming in
Okay.
from
from Esther O'Brien.
yeah.
What authors helped shape your research for this novel?
Oh gosh. Actually, I have one right around me somewhere, yeah, so I don't forget the title. Um, I oh, here's if I can. This was a useful book. Break It Up, about that possible secession, division, the secret history of America's imperfect union. That was not, that was part of my research for that thing. But then I did lots of research about AI, which figures largely in this, both in books and consciousness, which is also is a subplot. Um, the, I guess I should put together a bibliography to help readers like that who they always do with books I write want such a thing, and it's a novel, so I didn't think of doing it, but it's a good idea. So in fact, I had to do more research in AI and consciousness and things like that, both talking to people who know about those things, as well as reading.
And I don't want to give away too much, but one of the, if I might put it this way, pleasures of the book is the way that you resolve the fates, present the fates of several people who are familiar in our society now.
Yeah. Yes.
The only one I will mention is that Tom Hanks never dies, does he?
Well, he's alive in 2045 and and ubiquitous because it's the centennial of World War II, and he's everywhere giving daily World War II centennial notes on every device you have, appearing always and de-aging.
Yeah.
He's I think 87 then, and he's in these video appearances, uh, you know, artificially, digitally de-aged to his Saving Private Ryan youth.
Yeah. And just this finally, if I might, Kurt, how worried are you for what's going on now?
I'm worried. I am worried. I mean, I am. these, as you know, this couple argued for the years we're in now. Like he said, there's going to be a civil war. There's going to be a civil war. And she said, no, there isn't. My people I grew up with are not going to do this. They're not going
She's
to give
got
up.
she's got a nice speech that way. We're not
Yeah, and so
Bethany
I
signs and that sort of thing. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm of two minds about it. And I was kind of, I don't know, for whatever set of reasons, including I think being from the Midwest and having the parents I had, I am 51% hopeful, kind of by temperament. So my desire is to be hopeful, and I say 51% because I'm not. I try not to be. I don't think I am a Pollyanna. So I'm familiar with we're just that close to the abyss eternally. But in the last 10 years, as I've written the two histories I wrote, and now this, I feel closer to the abyss in this country than I ever have, and more close to despair. And in a certain way, one of the reasons I wrote this book is okay. Let's go down the road of this
Yeah.
just can't work anymore. What happens then that isn't, you know, like a Cormac McCarthy post-apocalyptic hellscape, and that's plausible, that's rational, that is not without hope, even though, as you say, it's full of sadness and tragedy, but it also has joy and love and people joking around. As you know, I remember talking again. One of my favorite, in addition to Dolly Parton, one of my favorite interviews I ever did was with Susan Sontag, who had just spent months and months, months living in Sarajevo, and she was saying people get it's hellish, but people get used to it, and they still
Yeah.
you know make love, and they still get in fights, and they still do it all despite what's going on. So that's the kind of world I wanted to depict in The Breakup.
Kurt Andersen, his new novel, The Breakup. Thanks very much for being with us. We have a distinguished British novelist on tomorrow night, but I'm not going to hold back the name because we've got to cinch that up. But we'll be with you tomorrow night too. So I want to thank Kurt Andersen for being with us. I want to thank everyone for being with us tonight on our open book. As you can tell, we've had technical drawbacks with our usual studio, and eventually we'll get that resolved. But so we're trying to operate from up here as we can. And well, Lucy Fellows, thank you very much. Thanks for being with us. We are going to RT this all over the world at this particular point. And Kurt, I can't thank you enough for joining us and talking about this novel that makes you think, and then some. So thank
Well,
you.
thank you. Back at you, and it was a privilege and a pleasure.
Take care. Night,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.